Today, we're going to be cutting through the noise on a topic that underlies pretty much every major project. I mean, whether you're an engineer planning a bridge, an executive launching a product, or, just someone trying to make sense of their mortgage, every ambitious project, it seems, needs two things to really work: great design and well-managed debt. So our mission today is to give you a shortcut, really, to understanding debt repayment and the engine that drives it: amortization. We're going to break down the two fundamental forces inside every single loan payment you'll ever make. Okay, let's unpack this. And here's a fascinating fact. To get us started, it really sets the stage. The word amortize, it actually comes from the Latin root mort.
Right, which means death.
Exactly, death. So when you amortize a loan, you are literally systematically killing it off over time.
And understanding how that debt is designed to die is, it's everything. In engineering economics, we see debt as a strategic tool. You master amortization, your project builds wealth. You don't. And the whole thing can get crushed by its own financial weight. You have to know the mechanism to ensure the project survives.
Okay, so before we get into the math of how we pay, let's define what we're paying. Because every single payment, whether it's a car loan or a huge corporate bond, it's made of two completely different financial forces.
That's absolutely right. At its heart, debt repayment is just a contractual transfer of cash, but it's a binding constraint on your future cash flow.
Yeah.
And that cash flow is always split in two.
Let's start with Force A, the return of capital. Most of us just call it the principal, or P. This is just the original amount you borrowed. So if you get a $50,000 loan for a new piece of equipment, that $50,000 is the principal.
Right.
Now, I saw a note in the source material that it's really interesting. It said, paying down the principal is not a cost. That feels wrong, right? I mean, money is leaving my account. How is that not a cost?
Yeah, that's the crucial distinction that most people miss. While cash is moving, repaying principal is not an economic cost. It's a balance sheet transaction, purely. You're just returning money that someone else let you use for a while. And here's the key. As you reduce that principal, you're directly increasing your equity, your ownership in the asset. It's a value transfer, not a value loss.
Okay, so Force A, the principal, is actually building my wealth, my equity. So what about Force B? What is it, and what's the trap people fall into when they just focus on getting a low monthly payment?
Force B is the cost of capital. That's the interest, or I. This is the fee. It's the rent you pay the lender for the privilege of using their money. And unlike principal, interest is a cost, an expense. We sometimes call it dead money.
Dead money.
Yeah. Once it's paid, it's gone. It provides zero residual value, no equity, nothing. Its only benefit was buying you the time to use the funds.
And that right there, that's the core engineering bet, isn't it? When you borrow money for a project, you are betting that your return on investment, the ROI, is going to be higher than the interest rate.
Precisely. That monthly payment, that split between P and I, is the constant stress test on that bet. Every single month. Is the money you borrowed generating more value than the rent on it is costing you? If not, you're technically running an unprofitable operation.
So we have the two forces, principal and interest. Now let's talk about structures. How do lenders actually structure these repayments to, protect themselves and guarantee their profit?
The standard, the one you see everywhere, is the amortized loan repayment. Mortgages, student loans, car loans. It's all about predictability.
Okay.
The structure is built on a fixed, scheduled payment. It's often called an EMI, or equated monthly installment. And that number is calculated very carefully so that if you just make that same payment every month, the balance hits zero on the very last day of the loan term.
And that's the appeal, right? It's predictable, you can budget for it, same amount every month. But the dynamic inside that fixed payment is what's so surprising. How does that P&I split change over time?
This is where it gets really interesting. Imagine a seesaw. Inside your fixed monthly payment, you've got principal on one side and interest on the other. At the very beginning of the loan, your principal balance is huge. So the lender's risk is highest.
Right.
So the interest portion of your payment, their fee, is also at its highest. The seesaw is tilted heavily toward interest. Your early payments are just overwhelmingly interests. Only a tiny fraction is actually paying down what you owe.
So it feels like you're running in place at the start.
Exactly. But every month, as you chip away at that principal, the seesaw starts to tip. The interest portion gets a little smaller, and more of your fixed payment can go toward the principal.
So it's a built-in acceleration. It's slow at first, but it picks up speed. But that's not the only way. There's also that riskier structure, the interest-only or the balloon payment loan.
Yeah, these are non-amortized or partially amortized. They often lure you in with a very low initial payment. The structure is small, regular payments for a while, and then one massive final balloon payment.
And the danger is in what those small payments are actually doing or not doing.
Precisely. During the term, those small payments might only cover the interest being charged, which means your principal balance. It isn't decreasing at all. It's just sitting there, untouched.
Wow.
So that entire original loan amount is due in one lump sum at the end. It's huge risk.
Yeah.
The borrower has to be incredibly disciplined saving up that huge amount, or they have to hope they can refinance when the time comes.
Okay, let's go back to the standard amortized loan because that shifting P&I split is just so fundamental to managing debt. The math behind it basically has one job: figure out that fixed payment, M, and then show how it kills the loan over time.
The formula itself is complex, but the process, the concept behind it, is actually a simple three-step loop. It repeats every single month, and it's all based on one idea: a decreasing interest base.
Okay, walk us through that loop. Step 1.
Step 1. Calculate the interest. The rule is simple. You can only be charged interest on the money you still owe. So interest is always calculated on the current outstanding principal balance, not the original loan amount.
So step 2 is where you fight back. After the bank takes its interest, it's rent.
The rest of your fixed payment, M, goes straight to reducing the principal balance. It's whatever's left over.
And then step 3, the balance update.
You immediately subtract the principal portion you just paid, and that new lower balance becomes the starting point for next month's interest calculation. And that's it. That's the whole game. It's why paying extra principal early is so powerful. You shrink the base for all future interest payments.
And that loop is what creates the amortization schedule, that table that breaks it all down. It also shows you why banks make so much of their profit in the early years of a loan.
Absolutely. They front-load the interest. It's a risk mitigation strategy for them. Think about it. If a borrower defaults 5 years into a 30-year mortgage, the bank has already collected a huge chunk of its potential profit.
Much more than if it were just a straight linear repayment.
Much more.
Let's make this concrete with the example from the source. It's small, but it shows the mechanics perfectly. A 3-year loan for $1,000 at 10% interest. The calculated annual payment is $402.11.
Okay, so year 1. The interest is 10% of the full $1,000, so exactly $100 goes to interest. That leaves $302.11 of your payment to actually reduce the principal.
Okay, so the new balance is about $698. Now we hit year 2, and this is where the magic starts.
Right. The interest calculation totally changes. It's not on $1,000 anymore. It's on that new lower balance. So the interest portion plummets to just under $70.
And since the payment is fixed,
More money, $332 this time, is freed up to attack the principal.
and then in the final year, year 3, the balance is so low the interest payment is tiny, just over $36.
Almost your entire $402 payment goes to killing off that last bit of debt.
That shift from paying $100 in interest the first year to just $36 in the last, that shows the whole mechanism in action. It's powerful.
It is.
So the math is clear on a small scale. Let's blow it up. Let's talk about the biggest financial decision most of us ever make: a mortgage. This is where you see the real and honestly the hidden cost of time.
Yes. Let's use a classic case study. You're borrowing $300,000 at a 6% interest rate, and we'll compare the standard 30-year mortgage against a 15-year one.
Okay.
So the 30-year option. The monthly payment is about $1,800. For most people, that's, it feels affordable. It makes buying the house possible. But if you look at the total interest paid over those 30 years, it comes to $347,500.
Wait, hang on. Create that again.
$347,500.
So the interest you pay is more than the house originally cost.
That's right. You pay more in rent on the money than you paid for the actual asset.
That is a brutal reality check.
Now let's look at the 15-year math. The monthly payment jumps. It's about $2,500. That's a much bigger hit to your monthly budget. It's a real stretch for a lot of people.
A big stretch.
But the total interest paid over the life of that loan drops to about $155,600.
Okay, so let's put it all together. What is the final trade-off here?
The bottom line is this. By taking on that higher monthly payment, it's about a $730 difference. The borrower saves almost $192,000 in total cost.
$192,000?
Right.
That's life-changing money. And it's saved just by cutting the time in half.
It vividly illustrates the single most important rule of borrowing. Time is, without a doubt, the most expensive component of debt. Shortening the amortization period is the most powerful weapon you have to reduce your total cost.
Every extra dollar you pay towards principal today saves you from paying interest on that dollar for well, for the next 15 or 30 years.
For the entire remaining life of the loan, it's an incredible force multiplier.
That's such a powerful lesson. The faster you kill the debt, the more wealth you keep.
So, to recap our deep dive, debt repayment is this strategic game. It's about separating principal, the part that builds your equity, from interest, which is the pure dead money cost. And it doesn't matter if it's a home mortgage or a massive corporate bond, the math of amortization is what dictates how and when that debt dies.
We've now really mastered the fundamental flows of money. Principal, future value, those regular payments or annuities, and now the mechanics of debt. But, knowing the cost is only half the battle. You still need a way to make a choice.
Right.
Let's say you're an engineer with two options. Project A costs $1 million up front but pays off fast. Project B only costs $50,000 a year but for 20 years. How on earth do you compare those two? The timelines are completely different.
To do that, you need one single powerful indicator, something that can take all those different cash flows, upfront costs, future revenues, decades of payments, and put them on a level playing field so you can compare them apples to apples.
And that next critical concept, it builds directly on everything we've talked about today with the time value of money. In the world of economic indicators, there is a king. It's the one number that gives you a crystal clear go or no-go on any project. That indicator is the net present worth analysis. Next time, we'll dive into how it works and how you can use it to make perfect economic decisions.